Hey guys, today I am at the world's coolest Jeep bar with the Younger family. Check this thing out. Now this isn't what he does for a living. What he does for a living is Jeep related, and this thing's pretty cool. If you guys haven't seen this, I know you have, because all you gotta do is Google Jeep bar and this thing pops up 100,000 times. Now it was his wife Jana's brainchild though, right?
Yep.
Now, if he can do this much for the inside of the house, you can imagine what he can do for a Jeep or a Scout or some of the other vehicles they work on, and that's where I'm going to take you today. So here's the reason I'm here. I'm at DNC Extreme. This is Eric Younger's shop, and they build Cherokee roll cages along with a bunch of other roll cages that you can just buy pre-bent, pre-notched. All you got to do is burn them in, basically. Take them home and burn them in. So they'll even ship them if you want them to ship. So DNC started as a Scout company. They focused a lot on Scouts. They did a lot of Scout stuff, Scout, you know, the 80s, the 800s, the Scout 2s, the Terras, a lot of that stuff. But Eric was also a huge Jeep guy. In fact, the first vehicle he owned was a CJ5. And so the second vehicle he owned was a Scout. But that is why they also do a ton of Jeep stuff. So I'm back here in the shop of DNC Extreme. This is Kelly. Kelly, how long have you been in the automotive industry?
28 years.
28 years. And she knows more about vehicles than a lot of us combined. She was telling me she rebuilds the brake master cylinders.
I build the brake boosters.
She builds the brake boosters, and also basically takes care of everything up front, I'd say, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. She's going to be modest about it, but that's what she does. Yeah. So this is Madeline, and she has, Eric has known her since she was born, and she is the one that's actually out here bending all these roll cages. So she has a Jeep WJ that she may be building a cage for here soon that they'll put into production. But they do currently have CJs and XJs, which is why I'm here, and even ZJs. So if you got a Grand Cherokee ZJ, she's going to be the one that's going to bend it up, notch it up for you, and then all you got to do is put it together and weld it in.
We tighten them down like this because with DOM, only with DOM, if you don't, it'll move in the bender, especially on these hoops, and your bend will come out flat, and it won't be as accurate of a bend. So this was Eric's design. He made this, and you just tighten it down and bend it.
So if you guys have ever built your own roll cages, you know how long it takes, how much extra stuff you have, all the extra scrap you have left over. In this case, I came to DNC Extreme because they already make a cage. I've used them before, and they're so easy. You just set them up, put them together, weld them in. And Madeline here is the one that actually bent the cage for Rat's Nest. So it's going to be pretty cool to put that together, and if I have any issues, I'm going to be giving her a call. And this is exactly why I came to these guys. If you see how many bends are in this cage right here, you can tell how many times I know I would have messed up, because I just don't do cages for a living. They already have all the numbers marked out. They already have all the notches set. They already know exactly how to put it together, and they really do go together extremely simple. You basically just set it up and weld it in. And this right here is a Grand Cherokee ZJ cage. So all you guys bugging us about Grand Cherokee cages, here's the company you call, and they make it an A-True or DOM, whatever you want. go ahead and get on this website. I'm gonna put their link down below. Make sure you check them out. So good news, I've gotten the driver's side done. I've gotten all the rust cut out, welded in all the panels that need to be welded in, reinforced some stuff, put in some angle iron over the leaf spring bucket, and a couple other things just to make sure I'll never have to think about it ever getting weak on me. I'm waiting on my flag bolts from Rough Country for the shock towers because those are broken. They actually have, there's a rusty broken tap in there. And Matt actually flew out to help me work on it to try to get this rust done because we are running out of time. And unfortunately though, he was a little bit tired. So he's taking a little nappy poo while I get back to work.
Jeep's on fire, bro.
Jeep's on fire. We're good.
Like the way I work it?
No diggity.
Not too bad.
Why don't you break that off?
So we kind of have a problem there in that the original bolts are on the top side, but whoever messed with this Cherokee last also welded nuts on the bottom side. So he had a nut and a piece of metal and then another nut welded to it. So it's just a mess. So what I did was cut all of that out, and then we just had a big hole. And then so I'm using these flag nuts from Rough Country, but I cut the end off, and then since that hole was a lot bigger, I just welded this whole thing in there basically. This piece is in there, right there, just completely welded in.
Good job. So while Matt's been doing that, I've been over here cutting out this floor and got to get this piece of lip off of the side of the inner part of the body here. Unfortunately, it's just glued in, welded in, everything else, so it's been kind of a pain in the butt. One thing I did do though is every time we have a chunk of frame rail out, I'm going ahead and hitting it with this Eastwood rust encapsulator and just running it in there and making sure that hopefully I'll never have this problem. Even though the inside of the frame looks good, I'll hopefully never have this problem later in life. I want to do this once and be done. So many pieces. So many pieces.
It's like a puzzle in here. I finally finished it.
Should we do a roll cage now?
Oh, that's another puzzle.
It's a little bit chilly in here because I don't have very good ventilation and we have to keep the door open. But I have to give a big thanks to Matt for coming out here and helping me get all this body work done. As you can see, that's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of rust repair. But now it's ready for the good part. We're gonna put in a cage. So a lot of people don't see is there's normally a hump here for your leaf spring hump, because you have a cross member going across here that mounts your back seat. But because I took the back seat out, I took that cross member out, and we had to make our own plate because they don't make this panel that I found anyway for Jeep Cherokee. So we are going to mount the mounting plates right on top of that point for this cage, which means we'll have to cut down the main hoop just a little bit. So normally on this main hoop, when they ship it to you, it's cut in half with a bung that you go inside to sleeve it, and that's only so it can ship better. But because we went down and I actually picked this up from them directly, they spent the entire B pillar for me. So the reason why I was really excited about using the DNC Extreme cage over building my own is not that I can't build my own. It's that when there's something already out there at a reasonable cost that I can buy. This is the front bar, the front windshield spreader bar, one that I messed up that I actually went to put on when I did the Samurai. If you guys remember when I cut up the cage and did the Samurai cage, that's it right there, and that was my messed up bend. And when you have to buy tube, and tube's kind of expensive, especially nowadays, and you mess them up, you get really sad. So you end up always having to buy extra when you build a cage. In this case, I don't have to buy any extra, I just have to buy the cage. It's already bent, and it's not much more than the cost of the tube itself. So one of the nice things about this already bent and coped and everything for you is that you basically can just set it in there. We got some ratchet straps just to get everything lined up and straight and true, which is pretty standard with any roll cage, and then tack it in, and then you can weld it in once you double and triple check. You always want to measure 3 times before you weld.
Measure once, weld twice.
Or measure twice and weld once, whatever, you know. You had this cage for your Cherokee 4-door or 2-door, and you were ready to go, meaning you had all your interior out. When your cage showed up, you could do this in a day for sure. Like have your cage in and weld it no problem. And that saves a lot of measuring and headaches.
Yeah, we got this far in an hour.
Yeah.
Hour or so.
Okay, so Matt and I had a little debate about where your seatbelt shoulder brackets should be, where they should mount,
Your harness bar.
and where your seatbelt should be mounted. Matt says it needs to be at 0 degrees, and I agree, 0 to 10 degrees, but at the angle of where your seat is leaned back. So if your seat is leaned back at 30 degrees, then you want that bar at that 0 degrees from that 30 degrees of that seat.
I say it's
90 degrees off it.
0 to 10 degrees from level.
We want to know what you guys think. What's the safe route to do this? Because we don't want to die. I don't want to die, but I don't think I'll die. Worst case scenario, just break my back.
It also depends on how far back this bar is, because if it was way back there, 10 degrees might be angled down, but if your bar is right here at the back of your shoulders, then
10 degrees is 10 degrees no matter how far it is.
right,
10 degrees
in
here,
degrees.
10 degrees here.
But 10 degrees here might be way down here, 10 degrees back there. See what I'm saying? If your seat's here, this might be 10 degrees here, but then if you follow that 10 degrees, it might be way down here, way back there. Okay, this is explanation by Colt.
Explanation by me. Okay, so in a perfect world, if your seat was straight up and down at 0 degrees, which is 90 degrees basically of the seat, it would come straight out. But somebody like me who sits at an angle, so as you can see from this one, this is straight up and down. I sit, let's just say this is 10 degrees. I sit, lean back because I'm taller. Then I want that at 0 degrees to that angle. I do not want it straight out this way. But if somebody were to sit up, then they would be at that 10 degrees difference if they sat that way.
Who sits like that?
Me.
Sit upright, Colt.
Everybody that's over 6'2" knows exactly what I'm talking about that drives any mid-sized truck. Not a single one of them can sit like this because your head's going to be into the ceiling like this.
Okay, now my explanation. So let's say this is you in your seat, and here's your harness bar. Basically, if your harness bar is way down here, that's 90 degrees for your seat belt. That's bad.
That's bad.
But this is the same level, but if you put it further back, now that's 10 degrees. So it makes a lot of difference where your harness bar is and how far it is behind your seat. Does that make sense?
I don't know. You have to ask them.
Does that make sense?
So somebody figure this out because there's lots and lots and lots. We even looked this up on the internet. There's lots of controversy about how you're supposed to mount your seatbelts.
Nobody has a good idea of. Everybody has different opinions on how it should mount.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
So let us know how you guys mount them down there. Just so everybody knows, here's where the top of my shoulder is. This is basically how the cage sets up. We pushed it back a little bit because I'm taller and I want to have room behind my head. Then you have these bars here. If you had a regular back seat, that are going to come in all the way up and then mount here on the floor. This is the way the cage comes, and then it has a kicker bar, that's a spreader bar I should say, that spreads the back right here, just like that. And it sits just inside everything and fits up really, really nice. I've done this cage before on a 4-door and it worked really, really well. The thing is we aren't gonna run a back seat. So I don't need these bars to the back. I just need to make kicker bars and basically brace the front because I want as much opening in the back to put stuff like spare tire and other things I want to keep the weight down and low on. So one of the things I should mention is that we taped off the windows. If you are getting ready to weld or do anything around glass, if you've never done it before, weld or grind, that glass is definitely going to get etched out from the splatter or the cuttings or whatever. If it's hot metal, it's going to melt that glass. So you definitely want to try to protect it, and that way your glass still looks good. It's pretty normal when you're building any cage to have some ratchet straps to hold it straight, hold it true, keep it all together when it's tacked. And then once you've measured, got everything straight, then you burn it all in. And this thing's going together pretty fast.
It makes it like one of those mazes where you have to try to weave your way through all the...
Matt's too tired to close this out, but I definitely appreciate him coming out and helping me get this rust done and getting this cage in. This cage, I'd still say, is probably one of the easiest welding cages you could do, especially on a Cherokee. Make sure you check out DNC Extreme. They also got some really rad brake boosters. If you guys are having brake issues, you might want to check them out. And if you have a ZJ and soon to be a WJ, they are going to have a cage for that.
More cool stuff right over there.
That way. And don't worry, this is an old frame, a spun bearing front axle, an old 2-piece rear 20, and a fiberglass body that none of us Jeepers are ever going to use a fiberglass body because you know how quickly they get smooth. So he used all the leftover pieces of things that you wouldn't use for off-roading to build the world's coolest Jeep.